Welcome. Before we begin, please be aware that our discussions on mental health issues may include sensitive topics and situations that could be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised, and if you find these subjects distressing, we encourage you to seek support or skip episodes that may be uncomfortable for you. Your well-being is important to us.
Welcome to Healing Echoes, Rebuilding Life After Trauma and Abuse. Today you have me, your host, Caitlin Curran. That's right, your girl got married. So on the last episode that I did, we talked about positivity, positive things that can happen after you've suffered a traumatic experience or abuse. So today we're going to get real, because I've always preached since the beginning of the podcast about how healing is not linear, how life is kind of full of ups and downs, and you might have had a very traumatic childhood or one very specific traumatic event that you're trying to heal from, but that does not mean that in the future you're not going to go through things that you have to work through or heal from. It's not a one and done kind of deal. And the last couple weeks of my life, since that last recording, have kind of just proved that. So I wanted to share that with you guys. One of the biggest things that happened to me was deciding to go no contact with my mother. I know to some people it might seem like I'm kind of putting my business all out there and I'm telling all these personal things about my life that should be mine, but it is my choice to share my story, and I choose to do so. I choose to share my business to show people that they're not alone. I have always maintained a relationship with my mother, even though I do feel like she is definitely one of the two main abusers I had in my childhood. The kind of abuse I suffered from her mainly was emotional and verbal, as well as religious abuse. And I won't go into great detail about that, just because it's past us now. And I have forgiven her for certain things, and I've healed from most of it. You know, just because you're healed doesn't mean that it's not going to sometimes still hurt or fester a little bit. It is a work in progress. But we have always maintained a relationship. I don't know if this is because it is a different kind of abuse than the abuse that I suffered at the hands of my father, but I always just felt like there was some good there. She's done good things for me. Through therapy, there's definitely been some understanding that because of the kind of abuse, actually, I was maintaining a relationship because I don't understand how damaging emotional abuse is to me. When it's something that's done to yourself, sometimes it's hard to pull yourself back out of the situation and see it in the way that you would if it was something being done to a loved one or a friend. And so I never really realized that the emotional and verbal abuse was still happening, and so it was something I still tolerated. I knew that she did and said things I didn't like, but it wasn't until kind of pulling myself back in therapy and in other healing ways that or practices that I was doing, that I realized that the abuse was really still continuing. So the last 3 or 4 months of doing therapy, meditating, journaling, kind of getting outside of my own head, I was trying to decide whether or not this was something I wanted to do. Over the last couple years, especially having a child myself, it is something that's come up at different periods in time, but I always just kind of continued the relationship anyways and didn't set the proper boundaries for myself or for my child, honestly. But I finally had enough. I've gotten to a point in my healing journey where I do set boundaries better for myself, and for my children. So basically, an incident occurred where she did something that closely mimicked the treatment that I would receive in childhood. And it was a mere days before my wedding day, and I had been counting on her for something pretty monumental that would affect my income and my family's livelihood and she backed out of that agreement. And I just finally said enough. Like, I'm not going to accept you backing out and then still maintain a relationship and pretend like I'm not hurt. And even if I don't pretend like I'm not hurt, I'm simply not going to maintain a relationship and accept this level of mistreatment or disrespect. So I told her that. I never got a response. I suppose what I said didn't really need a response. Yeah, I haven't heard from her ever since. I have not heard from my sister either. These were the two remaining blood relatives in my immediate family that I even had contact with. I don't have contact with my oldest brother. I don't have contact with my dad. I have minimal contact with my second-born brother. Just because that's how our relationship developed. I don't have any ill will towards him. We don't have any issues. We're just not particularly close. So it was definitely really hard, especially the day before my wedding. On my wedding day, I actually didn't give much thought to it. I was very, very happy. I was there with my husband and our children and a couple close family members, and the day was just all about love and happiness and me being who I am and looking into the future with my partner. It was a wonderful day. The day before and a couple of the days following have definitely been difficult. And so, like, I wanted to share that. I wanted to come on and be like, see, things still hurt. Things still happen. I did have a really cool experience. I have a greater support system now than I have ever had before. I know I mentioned that in a previous episode. And so I had confided in a couple of close friends about my choice to go no contact with my mother and just ask for support through the process, because I know it's not always going to be easy. Healing that wound, specifically the mother wound, is very, very difficult. And one of my really good friends actually said to me, this is just going to be another experience that you can use to teach people in the future. And although I had been trying to look for the positives in the situation and not just look at it as a loss, I hadn't thought about it quite like that until that day. So it was also really interesting to hear that from her on the same day that thought had occurred to me. And it is true. Like, these experiences, especially at this point in my life and at this point in my healing journey, just further to give me the knowledge and the understanding that I need to be the best teacher that I can be for other people. Because that is what I want to do with my story. I don't want to wallow in it, which is why I don't go into great detail to the things that were done to me. I kind of not gloss over them, but give a broader overview. I don't feel like rehashing the trauma really helps anyone. I tell enough for people to know what I've been through so that they understand that I've been there and that I feel their pain and that there is a way out. But I really wanted to share. Like, the day after it happened, I was like, I need to tell... Well, actually, I think it was the night of, because I had decided to go no contact pretty early in the day, and by that night, I was like, this is definitely something I'm going to share on the podcast, because I really want to show people that life continues to give us challenges. Life continues to give us hurdles that we have to get over or through, and that we have to heal from. That is actually part of the beauty of life. As much as it might hurt, part of the beauty of life is the pain, is the experience, is the feeling, is the realness, is the humanness. If we didn't go through things, it wouldn't be a full human experience. And so for that, I am actually thankful. It's not all negative. Yes, I've went no contact and in a sense probably have lost my mother and my sister, as well as any relationship I might have had with my nieces and nephews. But it's a choice I needed to make for me and for my children, because it affects more than just me. But it also feels really good to just stand up for me. That's something I never had in my childhood. Even when I tried, I wasn't strong enough to stand up against people. I was just a child. And so even into adulthood, it has been really, really hard for me to stand up for myself, to speak up, to be loud, to take space. And so whenever given the chance now, I try to do so. And I definitely have always struggled with holding boundaries with my mother. So holding this boundary, no matter how much it might hurt in the moment, taking this time to say, I do not accept this. And until you can address, admit, and apologize and change your behavior, I no longer wish to have you in my life. And that feels incredible. I deserve that. Anyone listening who might be going through the same thing, you deserve that. A lot of people look down on no contact. A lot of people believe in second chances. I do and I don't. I have given multiple people in my life multiple chances. Sometimes they were deserved, sometimes they weren't. At the end of the day, what is most important is that you do what is best for you. Hopefully, so since the day of going no contact, I have felt really a full range of emotions. The day of, I sobbed like a baby, multiple times. After the initial conversation with my mom where she let me down, really, I feel like it was just my inner child just releasing all of the frustration and the disappointment and the anger from my childhood till now. Because it's just been years and years of emotional and mental abuse, and verbal. I don't even ever want to repeat some of the things that this woman has said to me. And so I just sat and I just boo-hoo cried for probably about an hour. I called my best friend and I cried to her. I got myself together. I did my daily things with my kids. My fiance at the time got home. I boo-hoo cried to him about it. He gave me the support that I needed to stand by my decision. He is one of my biggest supporters, honestly. And the next morning, I told her what I needed to tell her. And I cried during that text because she didn't even want to call me. She just wanted me to text it out, and that also felt like rejection. And I think I cried for about an hour that day. There were more times throughout that second day that I felt like crying, but I didn't. Just didn't really get to that point. While being sad or frustrated, I also felt a great relief. So in the days since, I would say I've felt sad, like actual mourning of a relationship that I'm never going to have, that I've never had, and that I've never really allowed myself to accept and mourn that. I felt relief. I felt like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. I have felt happiness, anger, like really, really, really deep-seated anger, and so I've sat with that, and I've allowed myself to feel all of the feelings and process them and decide what I want to do with them, and a lot of it just let it go. It is what it is, it was what it was, and now I get to release that and continue on my life without the negativity, and I think that is beautiful. One of the things besides this huge, monumental thing that happened with going no contact with family members is also just that sickness has been so ridiculous in my household in the last couple months, but especially the last month. My youngest got hand, foot, and mouth. I was sick. I was actually sick on my wedding day, but it was just a minor cold. I'm still sick. It actually got worse after my wedding. You continue on with life. I'm continuing to take care of my kids. I'm continuing to work, trying to honor my body and rest, but still having to do, my responsibilities. And even today I thought, man, I have a cough and I'm sniffling a little bit and I sound like I'm underwater, but I still wanted to record. I don't want to miss a week. I want to share with you guys, and, maybe even in the, I'm sick, but I'm recording. I'm sick, but I'm taking care of my kids. I'm sick, but I'm working. Maybe even in that, you'll find some inspiration. Because even in those ridiculously typical life struggles, sometimes people feel really, really alone. Life can get really hard. Sometimes even getting out of bed in the morning is hard. That is one of the focuses of this podcast, is mental health and mental illness, and I suffer from multiple. And so sometimes it's really hard just functioning. But I want to let you guys know that you have a space here where you can reach out and you can ask for help. We do have resource guides. You can always contact the host, me. If just listening isn't enough and you feel really, really alone and you don't know how you're going to get up the next day and you're not sure that you want to, please reach out. Whether it be going no contact, whether it be anxiety, depression, CPTSD, anything else. If you feel like you cannot go on, please reach out. Please ask for help. We're here and we care. Thank you guys for listening. I know I sounded super nasally and super sick, but I did not want to skip a week. That being said, I know that I am releasing the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, so I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Turkey Day. If you celebrate. If you do not, just have a wonderful, wonderful week. I know, obviously, it is the holiday season, and so I want to reinforce that everybody take care of themselves and put yourselves first. Your well-being matters. I have some really, really exciting news. This last week, I launched both the website and the Patreon for the podcast. Both links can be found on the Instagram and the Facebook pages for Healing Echoes Podcast. The website is www.healingechoespod.com. And the Patreon is on Patreon, so you can also search it by searching Healing Echoes Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Healing Echoes. I hope you found our discussions both insightful and inspiring. Please consider supporting us by subscribing and or leaving a review. Remember that your journey to recovery is a personal echo, unique to you, and filled with the power of transformation. Stay tuned for more episodes, and until then, keep healing, keep growing, and keep sharing your own healing echoes with the world. This is Caitlin, signing off.